r/AskReddit. What is a story that you want to tell but can't find the right AskReddit? One day after sending my GF home after our date, my car ran into some major engine trouble not far from her place. Smoke coming out from under the hood kind of trouble. It was quite late already and no mechanic I know is going to take the call. So I called her and asked if I could stay the night. Her dad showed up on his bike to pick me up. The next morning I awoke to my car at her doorstep. Her dad had went back to where my car broke down on the side of a highway in the dead of night and worked through till dawn to get it fixed. I think I may have just gotten her parents' approval. I had a pet chicken that would casually have what seemed to be sexual relationships with pigeons. A squirrel gave me an acorn. Birds have shit on my pizzas twice. When I was younger, I had a ladybug pillow pet when pillow pets were somehow the rage back then. I was once in the airport waiting for a flight that got delayed and I put my ladybug on top of my suitcase. There was another, much younger kid also at the gate and he took notice of my pillow pet. His mom asked me if I could let him borrow it to play and I gave her the go ahead. The kid was immediately ecstatic and started throwing the ladybug up in the air to catch it. He was overall just having a fun time playing while I watched. My dad and I went to walk around the airport to find a place to eat before boarding call and when we came back, we found the kid sleeping on the seats while resting his head on the pillow pet. His mom thanked us for letting her son play with my plush and when we were called to board, she gave back the pillow to me so I could use it for the flight. I hate waiting at the airport and having to deal with the occasional unfriendly traveler. But whenever I go to the airport and have a bad time, I sometimes think about the one kid whose boredom I killed by letting him borrow my pillow pet. I was talking to my school's security guard and he asked me a question and I inadvertently asked, "Are you talking to me?" and he confusedly replied yes with a smile, and at that moment I wanted to just excuse myself for the rest of my life as I had forgotten that he's cross-eyed. I felt so bad because he is genuinely a nice guy and I felt like a bitch afterwards. I work at a lumber outlet. My second day on the job. My boss calls me over to introduce me to someone. At first, I thought it was a new employee. So I said welcome to the team, then I realized my mistake. We laughed and started chatting. This man started telling us about different cultures and how most people would consider LA to be overcrowded, but have never been to India. So their frame of reference is skewed. Then he started talking about eating crickets for protein and how he hates the beef industry. Then he took off in his Tesla, which had a towing hitch attached to it. I mentioned to my boss how cool it was to see a Tesla with a towing bull on it. And he said, "Do you realize who that was?" I said no. And he proceeded to tell me that this guy was Brian Thompson, a man who acted in movies with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and most importantly to me, played Buffalo Bill in Joe Dirt. It was the happiest day of my life. An accomplished actor came to our humble lumber yard, and I mistook him for a new employee. After high school, I worked for a short time in a grocery warehouse, in the refrigerator freezer section. I would drive around on a motorized pallet jack grabbing boxes of foods to be put on a truck and sent to grocery stores in the region. One day, I missed one whole section of my pick list, the ice cream section. By the time we realized my mistake, the truck was already gone. My boss told me to put the items into a cold box and fill it with dry ice, and then drive it to the store in a van. No problem. It was a long and boring drive on the old country roads. So I turned up the radio and started singing along. When it started raining, I put up the windows and continued on. The monotony of the drive really started getting to me, and I got really sleepy. After a while, I felt myself slipping off into sleep. So I pulled over off the road. I decided to get out and stretch, and really was fumbling to even find the door handle. I finally got it open and stepped out. As soon as I got out, I was wide awake and fully alert. It dawned on me that I was slowly asphyxiating myself in a CO2-rich atmosphere from the dry ice. I opened up the windows and continued my drive. My friends and I were skipping our exam and went to the boys' locker room and decided, as females, that my friend was going to pee in the urinal. As we chanted "do it, do it, do it," this teacher who was later fired for impregnating a student, walks in and just awkwardly screams sorry and leaves. Sure lol. My freshman year of university we had an IM football team and we were straight trash. I'm talking blown out every game without scoring a single point all year trash. Anyways, last game of the year we are down like 35 or something points with time dwindling. But somehow the other team had busted coverage that allowed our guy to get down the field and score a TD. Our team went freaking nuts like it was 1999. Guys on the sidelines running on the field. Guys hugging like we had won the Super Bowl. Guys diving on top of the dude who scored. I'm talking like last second victory in the championship game of an inspirational football movie celebration. Refs were just other students and the other team was pretty chill, so they basically let us finish up our wild celebration and kill like 2 minutes of the running clock celebrating. We ended up losing like 35-7 or whatever, but it was still one of the greatest moments of my freshman year because of how stupid it was. When I was like 7, I was making a cake. From the other room, I saw my chubby lil cat sitting on the couch. I heard some quiet murmur from under her butt. And then a Keisha song started playing. Turns out she sat on my iPod and somehow told Siri to play Keisha. I can never find a question that needs this story as an answer. Edit. I'm 14 and the cake was very delicious. Edit 2. I asked my mom and I was 10 when this happened. Not 7. I worked for a phone company call center. And once time I had a conversation with a customer who insisted that all the premium rate chat line numbers on the bill were incorrectly charged. I explained that the billing doesn't work that way. But they insisted and were really argumentative. She insisted neither she nor her husband were interested in adult services and refused to pay the bill. I ended up going over to the special phone we had for these issues and dialing the first number off the bill. A recording of a sexy lady's voice, over the top of the sound of the rolling seas, seductively asked me, "Hi, would you like to ride my Kawasaki?" Full stop. I immediately put the phone down. Then dialed the next number. The same sound of the waves. Then, "Hi, would you like to ride my Suzuki?" Full stop. Each number was exactly the same sexy chat, but each number was a different brand of motorbike. I went back to the customer and said, "Is there anyone in the house that likes motorbikes?" The lady spoke very quickly and said, "Thanks very much, you've been very helpful," and hung up immediately. One day I was at school and walked into a bathroom. I'm a middle schooler, but we use the same bathrooms as the elementary kids. I walk in and see this little kid peeing inside a cone. He had the cone upside down so the tip was on the toilet and the bottom he stuck his pee-pee in. I walked in and he had the nerves to say "Sup dude," so I responded with a sup. It was so hard not to burst of laughter. I survived a cancer with a 4% survival rate and am part of the 40% of survivors that isn't handicapped or some shit. Not much, but it's a small story about how out of touch with reality I am when I wake up. So I have an alarm set on my phone for 11 AM every morning. I also have an old alarm in my room that's like half a minute behind. I woke up one morning and looked at my alarm clock and saw that it was 10:59 and thought to myself, no point in going back to sleep, my alarm is about to go off. My alarm was going off already. That's why I was awake. It took me half a minute to realize this when my alarm hit 11 and I still didn't notice my alarm going off. My brother's teacher at school took 20 students on a geography trip. One student got stuck in the mud. The teacher didn't notice. Just drove off. About 40 minutes later, did a head count and realized one kid was missing. Drove back. Found him chilling in the mud. Pulled him out with his own tie. The kid lost a shoe. Rather than driving back to school, he took all of them to the pub and bought them all a pint. It's not great, but the students probably wouldn't have snitched. The teacher then huddled everyone together and took a selfie with everyone raising their beer. Sent it to the deputy head in the UK. By the way, my dad is a firefighter, paramedic, and he teaches CPR and first aid classes. Every time he teaches a CPR FAR class and gets to the section about choking and the Heimlich maneuver, he tells this story about me. When I was a toddler, for some reason I was very prone to choking on my food. IDK if I ate too fast or what, but it was a constant problem. After the third time that my dad had to hold me upside down and hit my back to unblock my airway, the Heimlich equivalent for babies and toddlers. I had figured out how to do it on my own somehow. I was around 2 years old. Maybe less. One time my mom ran back into the kitchen where I had been eating in my high chair cause she heard me choking and I was hanging upside down from my feet, forcing myself to cough, and I got the piece of hot dog out on my own and just climbed back into the high chair and kept eating like nothing happened. My parents use it to say I was a smart baby, but I disagree. If I were smart I would have been more careful eating my food. A couple of years ago, I was assigned to do a presentation about the British community. That was supposed to have happened in an annual gaming convention here in my city. However, that year, the convention was cancelled. Back then, I was very disappointed. Nowadays I'm just glad. Crying makes me so uncomfortable. Doesn't matter who it is, family, friend, or stranger. Most people's response is to console the crier, but I just want to leave. I feel like an asshole, but I can't help it. I started watching The Dirt, a movie about Mötley Crüe, on Netflix. Halfway through, I text my oldest friend, who was my fellow crew junkie back in junior high, and told her I was watching the movie and it made me think of her. I hadn't seen her in 5 years. She moved 2,000 miles away. She texted me back that she was also watching the same movie at the exact same time. Not only that, but we were at exactly the same spot in the movie. Weirdest coincidence ever. And I hadn't even known this movie existed until my boyfriend told me about it that day. Quite recently I realized that I am not passionate about anything. Is there a way I can find other people like me who aren't passionate about anything? Edit. I think I should add that I don't have depression. I like more than one thing instead of being passionate about just one thing. This happened today actually. We have a regular customer come into the coffee shop I work at. Today I saw him come in the door while serving a customer. I turned to my boss and asked her to make his coffee. By the time she had made it he was at the front of the line and I just handed him his coffee. He looked at me confused and asked what it was. It's your coffee, I saw you walk in. He was all smiles, compliments the good service. Pays. Takes his coffee and grabs a seat. Suru, one day me and my dad were driving home from a car show. We liked going to M a while ago, and we were in his Challenger and on the highway we were going about 90/100 mph, and of course we get pulled over and the officer asks my dad for his license and my dad gives it to him, but suddenly I just see a black Lambo looking car fucking zoom by, and then the cop looks at my dad and hands him his license back and says have a nice night and fucking zooms after that guy. Edit. Holy shit, 2.7k, goddamn, a lot of PPL have had similar stories to this yet. A vending machine got jammed mid-snack drop then laughed at me. Turns out pushing the coin return button on this one restarts the digital have a nice day dialogue scroll, so every time I mashed it repeatedly in frustration it was trying to scroll the message. But all I saw was ha 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 ha. After my first year at university I was on vacation and a little drunk. So I decided to send the university a postcard saying how much I liked the first year, that I was looking forward to the next semester, and as a suggestion for the canteen I said I'd like to have some liver and blood sausage, traditional German food, on the menu. I didn't think much about it and thought it'd probably only make it to some clerk. When the semester started, I got an email from the dean. He wanted to talk to me. I had already forgotten the postcard, so I had absolutely no idea what he wanted. Went to his office. He was sitting there with the university psychologist, holding a clipboard to take notes. I sat down. He was very friendly and after some small talk he brought up my postcard. I was surprised it made it all the way to the dean's office and asked what about it. He said that some law professors that saw the card were concerned about it, because apparently I forgot to mention liver sausage and ended my vacation greetings with only I wish for blood sausage on the menu. They thought I wanted to attack the university. Back in elementary, our librarian had a pet snake. Forget what kind, but it was one of the ones that doesn't fuck you up. Yeah, know what I mean? And so the class went to the library to see the stupid snake. She said we could all pet it but we couldn't touch its head. Easy. No problem, right? So everyone's petting the dumb snake and it finally gets to me and I completely forgot what the fuck she said and my dumbass touched that snake's head and she pulled him back and said, you lost your touch. And I felt so sick to my stomach. I froze. I was so embarrassed. My teacher was shaking her head. My friends laughed. My crush laughed. Fucking snake probably laughed. I just wanted someone to say it's okay. You Fulton Holmes, but that didn't happen and I'll never forget it. I once broke my leg by jumping off a ladder onto an inflatable dummy. And it was a hairline fracture. So it hurt like hellfire. But my parents made me walk around on it for weeks before they realized it wasn't just a bad sprain. Not so much a story, but an admission. Over the past 4+ months, I've become a severe alcoholic. Every time I have a panic feeling, or there's a problem, my mind goes to a bottle of white Zinfandel. I'm drunk right now. I'll admit my problem to people, but not the full extent of it. How I hate the feeling of being sober. I'm sorry. My college girlfriend of 4.5 years cheated on me 2 years ago and I took her back after 3 months of a breakup. 8 months later she did it again and I ended it for good. It's now been a little over a year and I've found out so much more through other people. Like how much she's lied to me, how much of a stranger she was to me, and how well she's doing now. I'm still struggling with the fallout and I've noticed the trust issues emerging, so I've stopped dating. I don't know what to do. Found a booger in my chest hair. It wasn't a booger. It was a larvae. It was the Mother's Day. The school which my lil bro, 10, goes made a trip to a local mall to buy gifts. A group of kids went in a beauty store with the teacher. My dude says he saw a pretty, colorful box and took it. Later that day, back in school, when the teachers were checking the gifts they realized he bought a lubricant. They told him that he can't gift this and that he should return this. He first resisted and hid the receipt, but in the end they took it away. A friend of mine got really drunk one night, and she was gonna sleep over at my other friend's house. Before going to sleep she took off all her clothes, went to the kitchen, where my other friend's mom was preparing breakfast, and grabbed 3 spoons from a drawer. Then, she climbed into bed with my friend's also naked dad and fell asleep. The best part is she can't remember any of it, and since she's still good friends with this other girl and therefore will have to keep seeing her parents, she's asked us to never tell her what happened cause she's not ready to feel that embarrassed. Not long ago I helped a couple of random people out, or was just a generally kind person throughout the day. Helped an elderly person get to their train platform. Let a father and his son have the last 2 sausage rolls. Allowed another elderly couple to take the last spot on a tram. Gave up my tram seat on the next tram to a young mother. Helped a disabled person struggling to get to the front of a merch line, much to the frustration of other people trying to push in. Not through any intentional means or for anything else except for being a good person. Finally got back to my hotel room that night. Ordered a kebab through Uber Eats and got double meat and small chips for free. I guess it was good karma. I saved someone's life and as a result they saved mine. I was out for a night walk with a friend and saw her on the wrong side of the railing on a bridge. I talked her down while my friend called police. I was holding her in my arms when the police and ambulance showed up. It was at a time where I was in a dark place. And helping her and seeing her in such a situation was enough for me to realize I needed help. I'm in a much better place now and I hope she is too. The worst thing about this whole post is that you can't expect what's gonna happen. Is it a cute wholesome story? Is it a traumatic experience? Is it something you never wanted to know? You don't know. I was a young teenager in the 90s. My tools were a VCR and blank tape, a Super Nintendo Entertainment System with Mario Paint, premium cable, and the Sunday newspaper. If you looked at the movies on TV section of the newspaper it told you ratings. I hunted for the words strong sexual content and would find my movies. Over the course of a year I made a mixtape of sex scenes from all sorts of movies. When that got old and I didn't want to watch Spice Channel through scrambler bars anymore, I resorted to making porn with Mario Paint. Yes, I jerked off to it. Edit guys, this was like 1993. I don't have the game anymore. It wasn't very good, but when you are 13 you don't need it to be very good. This is not that I can't find the right one, it's that apparently I am incapable of getting the posting rules right. They get removed every single time. So I'll just post it here in these comments. My husband lost his job. He's very depressed about it. Chose not to tell many people, and come to find out his aunt, who's BFFs with his ex-boss, took it upon herself to blab to his parents. I want to rip her a new one but not sure if it's worth it. Advice? I got attacked by a barred owl last year. It scratched me pretty good. When I was a child I wanted my inside cat to have kittens. My mom told me she would have to go outside. So every morning I held her on my lap for a few minutes outside hoping she would get pregnant. Edit. Clarity. My cousin used to play in the NFL. One game, he gave us family passes so we could meet up with him in the player's family tent after the game. Watch the game. Went down there. And I had to pee. I remember I had passed a security guard when we arrived in the area and went back to that spot to see if they could tell me where a bathroom was because I couldn't find anyone else that worked there. The security guard was nowhere to be found and I really had to pee, so I followed a long hallway back, and the only thing at the end of the hallway was a set of giant double doors. I opened one and started walking into the locker room. Looked up. Saw some of the players changing. One or two in towels. And definitely a couple with everything hanging out. I'm just this little 5 feet 2 inches female that wasn't even wearing a jersey from their team. I had a Pro Bowl jersey on of a player from a different team, and I walked right on into an NFL locker room like it was my business to be in there, and then I walked right on out. Never told my cousin and never told anyone in my family. Was definitely super embarrassed at the time. Now it's just funny. When I was 2, my mom started to potty train me. Things were going pretty well. And I got to wear normal underwear. Well, while wearing normal underwear, I was running around the house. She sat on the sofa watching TV. Suddenly, I froze. She looked over at me and I looked her dead in the eye. Then I spread my legs. Then I fucking pissed all over myself and the floor. All without saying a single word. When I was backpacking in Spain, I met another backpacker who was half Romanian, half Argentinian. I happen to know 3 national anthems, those 2 plus my own country's. The look on his face when I sang him both of his national anthems was priceless, and I have never been so proud as I was in that moment. I called a person with the same name as me. Say Emily, not my real name. Our conversation went, huh? Hello, this is Emily. Me. Yes. Very long pause. Huh? What? Me. Oh sorry, hello, my name is Emily too. And then I died inside. My uncle once took me tobogganing when I was about 5 or 6. He brought along his friend and his friend's son, and we were having a good time, and we decided to make our way fully up the hill. We were only going from about halfway before. On top of the hill we found a bathtub and went tobogganing in it. I wasn't sure if this was just a dream or not until I told my mom about it. Assuming it was a dream, and she confirmed it actually happened. If you want to get nothing in return, you can like and join my Discord. There is a link in the description.